and this is Homekeepers. Grab yourself a cup of tea, join us, stay with us. I think you'll be glad you did. My name's Arthelene Rippy. We do this program all about the home, all about the family, and I think everybody is really interested in those subjects, so glad you're there. And today, the program really is about family, and I think you're going to be surprised when you hear my guest talk about her family. She's written a book called No Longer a Child of Promise. Her name is Amanda Farmer, and I told her when I met her a while ago, I said, I'm sure glad I read your book, because I never could have guessed what was in it. I never could have winged it on this interview, so it's a good thing to do your homework, friends. So I'm happy to welcome Amanda, and I'm going to join Stephanie in a minute. We're going to make a cream of cauliflower soup. And we're going to be doing a lot of soups. This time of year, I think people really kind of gravitate toward them, something akin to comfort food. Before I join her, I want to again offer you this 365 Read Aloud Bedtime Stories. And I'm going to read you one, okay? I decided, this is a child's book, I decided to read this along at night when I read my other stuff. I read the scripture in the morning and the evening. And, you know, it's food for your soul. My. The psalmist said, thy word I've hid in my heart, that I might not sin against God. And this little book captivated me. It's for children. But I thought, I think I'll read along with them. And it's been so refreshing, you know, to become as a little child again. So this is the third day. I'm right on schedule with this, by the way. Day 3, Adam lives in the garden. The man God created was named Adam. God planted a garden in Eden to be Adam's home. This garden was big. 4 rivers ran through it. Beautiful plants and trees grew there. They were good for food. God told Adam to take care of the garden. That was a job, okay? Next, God created animals and birds out of the dust. He brought them to the man and Adam named them all, but Adam was alone. This was not good. God said, I will make someone to be with Adam. So God made Eve. So what'd that take, 30, 45 seconds? Then there's 2 questions. This is right before you put the kid to bed, and you get that word of God in them. So the question was, what was the name of Adam's home? Can any of you people say? My crew can't answer that. Okay. It was the Garden of Eden. Stephanie just got it. And who gave names to all the animals? Okay, see, they're on the ball. Anyway, we're offering you this book. Some people have really ordered a pile of them. They want every grandkid to have them. But it's for any gift, so please note. And I'm asking you to send the best gift you can, but there's something very wonderful, very important about getting these Bible stories into your kids. A lot of times they come back to them after they've been prodigals and kind of wasted their life, and then some of these things come back. It's powerful stuff. So if you want to use your credit card, it's 1-800-229-0059, or write to me at Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758, and we would really appreciate the best gift possible. So I've joined. You're the smart one. You knew Eden.
I wasn't paying attention to the first one. You asked, and I was like, what?
Oh, but you were quick on the second one.
The second one, I'm there.
Yeah.
I want to be the teacher's pet. So.
Oh, you are. You were first. The rest of them woke up.
Well, they're listening to their headsets, is why they're listening. Okay. You know, they're not listening to you.
Oh, really?
I learned that a long time ago. Okay, so.
Yeah, let me tell you something else they do sometimes.
Okay.
I love these camera people, but they might be talking about the host on the headset.
That's true.
That's not nice.
That's true. We have rules about when people walk in. Okay.
No, they're wonderful people. They would never do that.
So soup season, right? Mm-hmm. And I love a good potato soup, but I hate all the carbs. Mm-hmm. So I think this is going to be a great equivalent. What I think this.
Now, what have you got in there?
So I have butter in here, and I have some green onions that I've sautéed. I'm going to put some flour in here. We're just going to make a quick roux.
So that'll make a kind of a good consistency.
And it's going to make a nice thickener. So a roux, all a roux is fat, equal amounts of fat and flour. That's
equal?
All, yep, equal amounts. That's all it is. So when somebody says make a roux and you're like, oh no.
Oh my, that's so complicated.
Yeah, super easy. So then I have chicken broth I'm gonna pour in here. I'm gonna crank this heat up high so we can get it going. You wanna cook that?
Do you want me to pour it in?
Yeah, you just wanna make sure that flour flavor is cooked out, but you're fine, go ahead. We're speed cooking, so go right ahead, yep. And while this is gonna bubble up and get yummy and delicious, I have a funny little story if you wanna hear it.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
You know, Facebook, I know a lot of people don't like Facebook, and like you've mentioned before, I'm gonna put salt in here.
I use Facebook to call the prayer warriors together.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I came across something the other day that just made me smile. There was something on there from my past, not about my sister, and my very first best friend when I was 5 years old was on there.
She found you?
His name was Patrick Neal.
You might know it was a he.
Well, I was 5, you know, but he lived right across the street. And, you know, I don't have a whole lot of memories from before 2nd grade, but I do remember him. And he put on there and he said, I remember, Stephanie, because when we were 5 years old, we wanted to get married. And her older sister performed a wedding ceremony upstairs in the bedroom. It was the cutest thing ever.
And he didn't forget
And he did not forget. I don't really remember that. I have, you know, like I said, before 2nd grade, I just don't have a whole lot of memories. But I just thought that was
so
the
sweet.
cutest thing.
Some people really criticize Facebook, but it's how you use it.
Yeah, it's how you use it. And I can see why some people, because it has caused a lot of problems.
But all mine love the awards.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you call prayer warriors, and I just love, that was just a funny memory to me that I would have probably never remembered. I have this cranked up high, so if you want to pour the milk in, and we'll go ahead and put the cauliflower in too. It calls for frozen cauliflower.
Yeah.
You got fresh, and we microwaved it a little bit to try to soften
Susan,
it up a little bit.
that was her idea. Do you want this in?
Yeah, sure.
Cauliflower, there's so many ways to use it. Some people don't like the taste, but you can camouflage that.
You can. I saw one yesterday. We should try it. It was buffalo bite cauliflower. Instead
Really?
of chicken, and you use buffalo sauce and you bake it. I think we need to try that.
That sounds very
I
interesting.
hope this is perfect. Okay, and then go ahead and if you want to put the cheese in.
This is.
Now we're speed cooking. You're gonna want to let this cook.
Yeah, you want to let it hang out.
A lot longer. A lot longer.
But I am counting on some for lunch, so we'll let it.
We'll let it cook.
Simmer and.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's going to be a great.
But just for fun.
You're not gonna. It's not gonna. The texture is not.
No, it won't be right.
Now,
I just want to taste just a little bit of the, because some of these are so good. Oh yeah, baby, that's good now.
Oh yeah, baby. You got to know, yeah, baby.
That's good now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, baby.
And
That's good.
for all of you that really watch your grocery budgets, this is a main meal.
Yes.
You know, put a roll with it and a little salad. And
Yes, and like no carb. I mean, the carbs in here.
healthy. Yeah.
The difference between the potatoes and the cauliflower, huge difference, but great taste.
Yeah.
Oh, and then we have chives. Just so you know, when it's all done and we put it in the bowl, we're gonna put some.
You
chives
put that on top of it. Okay. All right. If you want this recipe, it's information is coming up on your screen, and you can email us. That's the best way. But if you don't have a computer, we are very happy to mail it to you. Know you'll enjoy it. Stay with me. I want you to meet Amanda Farmer. You're going to like her.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, just write to the address on your screen, or you can email your request to arthelene@rippy.org.
I think the most common remarks we get about this program are the wonderful guests, the variety of guests, and all I can say is the Lord's doing. We don't have finances to bring them in, so the Lord brings them in, and what a God of variety He is. And So I am so pleased to introduce to you Amanda Fisher, the author of No Longer a Child of Promise. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. This is your second book.
This is my second book.
Is this the sequel to the first one, which I didn't get?
Yes, this is a sequel to the first one. I brought the first one along.
If You Leave This Farm.
Yep,
Now, you were raised in a Mennonite family.
that's correct.
Kind of educate the audience as to if they're different, how and why, than your regular run of, say, Christian evangelicals or Protestants or whatever.
Okay. Mennonites as a whole, well, there's a big spectrum of Mennonites, all the way from what we call very conservative, or on the spectrum of almost being Amish. There's old order Mennonites who still have horse and buggies, to the more liberal Mennonites who look like everybody else. But as a whole, Mennonites dress different than the public. They're always known as Anabaptists, which meant back in the 1500s, when all the upheaval was going on with different groups breaking away from the Catholic Church, they believed in being rebaptized as adults and not as babies. So that's where the term Anabaptist came from.
Anabaptist.
Yeah.
I've heard that before, but I never knew for sure what it meant. Thank you.
That's what it means. They were rebaptized as adults on a confession of faith rather than as babies.
Now, why the different dress? Some of them were a little kind of mesh.
What we call a covering. It was a little white. They're all a little different depending on which group you belong to, but to cover your hair, the women to cover their hair, because hair's to be the beauty of the woman, only to be seen by her husband. And most of the dress comes from interpretation of not being like the world, being the second layer of dress that the Mennonite women wear is to cover the shape of the woman so that it's not a temptation to the man. So that's primarily the reason for the different type of dress, to cover the body, to not be tempting to the opposite sex, that kind of thing, and to wear the head covering as a sign of being under submission to God and man, and then.
So that explains a lot of the outward things we see. Is the basic theology evangelical?
Yes. I think it's pretty much the same. It's kind of interesting, when I married my husband, who was Lutheran, we really didn't have a lot of different basic beliefs except for the baptism issue. So we kind of pretty much meshed together.
So you attended public school, and you had to dress like that. Did you feel ostracized, different, or whatever?
Well, I always felt like kind of a strange duck, you don't quite fit in. But then I kind of felt that way amongst the Mennonites too, because we lived farther away from most of them. And so I didn't have a lot of social experience with the Mennonite kids either. So my brothers and I were all kind of loners in that sense. A little bit different from the world, but a little bit different from
the rest. This lady has really educated me this morning. We've only known each other about an hour, but the Anabaptists, which I had heard of before, would include the Amish, the Hutterites, and Mennonite. The other two, the Hutterites and the Amish have their own schools, where you, looking differently than all the other kids, you went to public school.
Most of the Mennonites, the more conservative Mennonites, also have their own schools. But I think because my parents didn't live real close to the group, we went to public school. So some of them do send their kids to public school, but a lot of them have their own schools too.
Now, when I first heard about your book, I thought maybe to the eyes of family and so forth, your community there, that you might be ostracized for a number of reasons, which is really not true. And you left the kind of the Mennonite world at what age?
I was 34. I left the Mennonites when I met my husband, primarily. And the reason for that was, you almost have to read my whole story to understand why, but our family was not the typical Mennonite family. And so in a Mennonite Amish community as a whole, there's a lot of real closeness. And so anything that's a little bit odd with your family, and ours was quite odd, at least in my perspective, that kind of gets passed around to all the other members of the community, not necessarily in your local community, but wider community as well. It's very difficult to get married then.
Yeah, so you didn't leave out of just open rebellion and all that.
No, I left because at 34,
better life.
For a Mennonite to marry me was probably unheard of at that point. So I knew if I wanted to get married, I had to find somebody outside of the...
Now, the thing that surprised me about her book was it's really about the total dysfunction of your family, and that's where I thought maybe the church had a great influence, but you said no.
The church tried to have an influence.
They tried to help.
Right, they tried to help, but my father
Yeah, they didn't cause the problem.
Right, they weren't, my father just wasn't open to anyone speaking into his life and helping him change things or make things different.
But they did use and maybe twisted some church theology to try to keep you in line, because your dad's great dream was this big farm, which he saw come to fruition. He had a big farm, but that you and your two brothers would basically give your lives for the farm.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a Mennonite belief or whether that was a family belief. I said a lot of beliefs, I think, or situations like that are generational. And when I look back at my grandfather, my dad's father, that's exactly how he treated his children. His children were...
So it was a learned behavior.
Yeah.
And you think the grandfather interpreted the church that way?
Well, he was a minister in the church, so I'm not sure how he interpreted it. I never knew my grandfather, but I knew his family. He saw them as parts of him that he could control and tell them how to live and what to do and what their occupations should be and that kind of thing.
We do have her website on the screen. The name of the book is No Longer a Child of Promise, because you really want to read the details that we are just have enough time to just skim over. So there was just constant turmoil over the fact that you were supposed to give your life to the farm, and you and another brother chose to go a different way.
That's correct.
But the oldest brother, that was his whole...
Yeah, he stayed on the farm. And that's where it kind of fell apart at the end, you know, is because the expectation then was he would get everything and the other two of us would get nothing because we didn't give our life to the farm.
And every once in a while they try to throw scripture at you.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Christians, that is such a bad idea. You pick, cherry pick some scripture that has nothing to do really with the circumstance, but I'm going to just say this. The Bible talks about being without natural affection. And we've often thought, and it's true, in the homosexual realm and that kind of thing, but there's not a more natural affection than parent to child. I remember the first time I held my firstborn, I knew I met somebody I'd die for. I knew that. And your parents were so cold. Now, what happened to that natural thing?
I don't know. I and my younger brother just did not follow their plan for us, and that was the hardest thing for me that I write about in the book is the rejection from my mother, the rejection from the family, trying to understand, why is this happening? How should I deal with this? I'm a Christian. I need to forgive them. But what does that look like? How do I forgive them and have a relationship with somebody who wants to control the situation?
Every movement of your life, really.
Right. And that's what I explore in the book, and I'm hoping that it can be helpful to others who might find themselves in that situation. Or sometimes people are heading that way and they don't realize it, that hopefully they can see what happens if you have the wrong values,
Well, at the top of the show, I talked about God can redeem anything. And you're sitting there and you're not on drugs.
No.
Which, if you read this book, many people could end up there. they could end up with something to medicate the pain and the disappointment. You had cancer surgery, which prevented you from having any more children, which you wanted. God did give you one daughter. And your mother said that the doctor must have made a mistake, that you really didn't have cancer.
Making that up, yeah.
How does that happen?
I don't know. I have never really totally figured that out, how that happens, and why she felt that way, why she didn't have time for us. So it's a very painful thing to go through.
Have you, what do you know about her background? How was she raised?
She came from a family of 12 kids. You know, I'm learning more as I'm getting older that maybe her father was a little bit like our father as well, so some of that's in there. But I don't know. I saw her in her younger years when I read their love letters as being a very spiritual, mission-minded, very outgoing lady. So I think over the years, she kind of became like my father, because when you live in a marriage where somebody's very powerful and there's no other choice, you kind of begin to become like them. And I see her doing that.
Because when you follow through, you know, just the life of a family, you have funerals and weddings and things, and sometimes they wouldn't attend. They wouldn't show up.
Yeah.
Did you ever think, well, that's the way life is? Or
No,
you're pretty smart. I mean, you must have seen there's another way to live out there.
I kept thinking there's got to be a better way. And there was enough families in the Mennonite church that
Were
maybe,
normal?
that were normal. Maybe I didn't see everything inside their families, but I'm like, not everybody's like this, and I don't want to be like this, so I don't want the farm, the money to be my overriding purpose in life.
Now, we're talking about a really big farm and very valuable. So it seems to me, while your dad was still, you know, relatively healthy and working and all that, all this stuff came out about the will and who was going to get what, and that was the thing that divided the family.
Pretty much.
And also, this is where sin, because this wasn't right. What she was raising was not right, and you might as well be bold enough to say that. When you live like that, it's going to cost you. And as this story progressed, the money that was spent on lawyers and this and that and the other thing, Satan robs you.
Yeah, it's like it would have been so much easier if we just said, yep, we're just going to give you this much, give you a little bit, whatever we agreed to, and move on. But sometimes we make big deals out of things that it's like, why is the money so important? What is it about this? Why can't we just, why isn't the relationship the important thing? You know, Jesus made our relationship with him the important thing, not what we can collect, and you can't take it with you anyway. So why do we get so bent out of shape about?
And you know, Amanda, we might be surprised how many families there are that are like this family in varying degrees, because that is the goal of Satan. Now, your brother got married, was it, and your mother wouldn't attend, or?
Yeah.
Because you photoshopped
my oldest
picture.
Brother, Paul, in the book. She wouldn't attend his wedding because she didn't
want to.
She didn't want him to marry her, the woman he married, so we could never get together for a wedding without somebody.
Well, tell them about the picture.
So
Usually
yes,
you take pictures at weddings.
My mother would not attend the wedding, so it's like, okay, how do we get a family picture with everybody in it? So my wedding had been before his wedding, so I had this nice family picture with my oldest brother missing. So I took it to a photo shop. In those days, we didn't have all the gizmos we have now, and they took my mother out of my wedding picture and put her into my brother's wedding picture. Now we had a full family picture. And I said, well, I can't change the dysfunction, but it was kind of a funny joke that I did.
Yeah, and it's somewhere down the road it might be appreciated. we have just a couple minutes left. How do you not live with this? Sure, there can be great bitterness, and there can be downright hatred. There's a lot of reasons you could hate and be bitter. How has the Lord redeemed this in your own life? Because this went on for years.
Right. Many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
I've just realized that the Lord's given me what I need. I have a relationship with Him. I have a great family. I have all that I need. And when I look at, people that do wrong to you, they get their payback one way or another, whether that's after they're gone. And I don't necessarily, I'm not angry at my mom and dad anymore, especially since I look back at their history. They lived what they were taught. And so you got to let it go at some point and go, whatever's gone is gone, and I can't do anything about it. I just need to build from here. I need to build a relationship with my daughter that doesn't look like this. Start the family over in a different.
Forgiveness is so powerful, and I think one of the most powerful scriptures is that if we don't forgive, we're not forgiven.
No.
That is, need to sit down and just think about that for a while, because Jesus Christ is the absolute epitome of forgiveness. But if we don't, then, and also, He doesn't ask us to do anything that's not for our benefit. It's my benefit when I forgive someone. Also, I noticed how this kind of thing just eats away, eats away, eats away. Your parents were not properly cared for at the end. How very hard you tried to, but with this constant friction with the children and all. But you've written an important book, and I think a lot of families could see themselves in here at one degree or another. And it teaches you that it's not worth it. You live for God, do the best for your own family and those relationships. Learn what you can change and what you cannot change, and commit it to Him. And you're a nurse anesthetist, I can't pronounce it, but what God has made out of her life is really, really thrilling, and I'm glad that He sent you our way. God bless you.
Thank you.
And please join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.